everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're checking these out for the first time, welcome. And since you are watching this, I'll also congratulate us all on surviving another year. I'm recording this at night and my rats are being very loud. I apologize in advance. So the best of the year lists at the end of the year are always something I really look forward to, both making my own and looking at other people's. I've been making my best of the year lists on Letterboxd since like 2014, but I didn't bother making one for 2020 because of the lockdowns and delays. Because the theaters were closed down a lot, and even while they were open before the vaccines came out, I just couldn't justify going to the theater when I could just stay home and watch something. And although the pandemic is still ongoing, thankfully theaters in my province have opened back up in the spring, so I was able to see a lot more new releases, both on the big screen and through streaming. It's been a pretty banger year for both tentpole and independent films in my opinion, and this is by no means an exhaustive or objective list, just the films that stood out and resonated personally with me the most. Also, I'm just one person and there's only so much time in the day, so there will inevitably be stuff missing that I haven't got around to seeing yet. But if I waited to make these until I saw literally everything that I was interested in, I would never be able to actually finish them. Okay, so without further ado, here are my top 10 favorite movies of 2021. Okay, I lied, so there is some further ado. Some of the runners up are Pig, Titan, The Power of the Dog, Spider-Man No Way Home, The Night House, Crypto Zoo, and Vendetta. Alright, number 10, Limbo. A story about a group of refugee men stuck in a remote part of Scotland, taking awkward cultural awareness classes, watching bootleg Friends DVDs, and waiting to find out whether they'll be granted refugee status. Doesn't really sound like an obvious comedic premise. However, Limbo has this deadpan and sardonic sense of humor that I really vibe with, while still packing an emotional gut punch when it needs to. This bittersweet comedy about being isolated and stuck with no idea what the future holds will probably resonate with a lot of people after the last couple of years. Number 9. Riders of Justice. Mads Mikkelsen stars in another Danish language banger, Riders of Justice. The film is set up like a typical revenge thriller, then spends the next 2 hours deconstructing it in an effective and memorable way. It's a surprisingly funny and heartwarming story about grief, a strained father-daughter relationship, masculinity, and male friendships and bonding. Number 8. Judas and the Black Messiah. Judas and the Black Messiah feels like something that could have come out of the 70s New Hollywood. It's a provocative and gritty drama bolstered by 2 career-defining performances from Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya. Kaluuya's portrayal of Fred Hampton in particular is impossible not to be mesmerized by. Number 7. Nightmare Alley. Nightmare Alley may be a slow burn, but it comes with some mesmerizing performances and an amazing payoff. I understand why some people would get bored watching this, but between Del Toro's visual direction, which by the way, goes with both the grimy carnival and opulent 1940s New York settings like Peanut Butter with Chocolate, and the interplay and scheming between all these characters, I was riveted for the entire runtime. I don't know how unpopular of opinion this is, but I honestly connected with it more than The Shape of Water. Number 6. West Side Story. I'm a fan of the 60s film adaptation of West Side Story and have also seen it on stage, so I felt pretty lukewarm towards this new one for the longest time and didn't see what it could bring to the table. Thankfully, my assumption was unfounded, because Spielberg directed the living fuck out of this movie and the music, performances, and choreography are all stunning. And I would say even outdoes the previous adaptation in some respects. Number 5. The Suicide Squad. This was probably the most fun I've had watching a straight-up action or superhero movie all year. I really vibe with James Gunn's comedic and character writing, and have enjoyed his work for years, and thankfully it still shines through in the Suicide Squad despite the trappings of a superhero blockbuster. Also, this is 100% personal bias, but there's an awesome rat girl who plays a pivotal role, so I felt fucking seen like a Reddit user watching Joker. I adopted 3 new rats in August and even named one Sebastian for this movie. Number 4. Dune. Dune is a visually stunning and refreshingly mature sci-fi blockbuster that you rarely see anymore. I binge-read the first 4 novels at the beginning of the lockdowns, and Denis Villeneuve is one of my favorite filmmakers working today, so I was hyped for this. And his style and approach to filmmaking fits with this story perfectly. It made me feel fully immersed in its world in a way few films have. Despite only being a partial adaptation of the first book, it's very well paced, and it does a good job drip-feeding some of the strange and dense lore to the general audience. Number 3, The Green Knight. The Green Knight is one of those movies I just fell in love with, and continue to love the more I rewatch it. While the poem it's based on is hundreds of years old and the plot is fairly simple on paper, there's such a richness to it, from the visual direction to the sound and music. It feels mystical and surreal and larger than life, but is grounded by the presence of Dev Patel. And the slow, ponderous pace lets you breathe it all in. The Green Knight is a refreshingly unique and introspective take on Arthurian lore, and you almost never see fantasy or adventure films that feel anything like it. Number 2, Annette. Annette is a quirky arthouse musical with a great soundtrack by the Sparks and a mesmerizing lead performance from Adam Driver. Driver has had a stacked year between this, The Last Duel, and House of Gucci, and while I loved his role in Duel as well, his performance in Annette is my personal favorite of the three. Like the next and final movie I'll be talking about, there's a lot of intentional campiness and self-indulgence to it that I found very charming. Annette deals with themes of male entitlement and aggression, as well as performance, art, and celebrity culture, and has a very powerful finale, but it still manages to be so offbeat and funny that it never feels too depressing. Having seen Leos Carax's previous film Holy Motors, I knew this wasn't gonna be a typical movie musical, and thank God for that. Number 1. Malignant. Yes, James Wan's campy, bloody, stylish masterpiece was the best surprise I experienced in the theater this year. Malignant is a weird mashup of different genre influences, from slasher and giallo to comedy to action, genre films from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, that it ends up feeling unique in the current cinematic horror landscape. The last third of the movie is particularly batshit, and it was honestly a joy watching it unfold. The practical effects, stunts, and visual direction are great, and it felt like one of those movies where everyone working on it understood the assignment. James Wan, you're an absolute madman. Alright, so as of this recording, these are my top 10 movies of 2021. I'm honestly not too precise about the specific order of the numbers, and honestly, the top 3 this year could probably just be interchangeable. But I really have fun making these because I get to look back on the movies I loved and catch up on a lot of stuff that I didn't get time to see. Anyway, Happy New Year, thank you so much for watching. Please consider leaving a like if you enjoyed the video and a comment to let me know what you think. My next idea for a long-form video is going to be kind of a review / retrospective of the entire Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, including the new film when it comes out on Netflix next month. I still have other priorities in my life that need attention outside of this channel, which is just a hobby, so I don't feel comfortable giving an exact ETA on any of those, but just to make things a little bit easier for myself, I'm probably gonna split the Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff into 2 videos. One covering the original film to Next Generation, and then the next covering the 2003 remake to the new movie coming out next month. Anyway, here are my other social media plugs so you can follow my stuff outside of my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram where I mostly post my Blu-ray and DVD collection updates and other kind of general film and hobby related stuff. I also have an Instagram page for my rats too, a Twitter for channel updates, and I'll also leave my Letterboxd handle as well because it's probably updated the most out of any of these platforms. Honestly, I have a love-hate relationship with the Letterboxd user base, but the UI is... haven't found another film or TV tracking site that scratches the same itch. So again, thank you for watching, Happy New Year, stay safe. There is a snowstorm happening right now in BC. I can see the SkyTrain track from my apartment, and earlier today I saw a train literally crawling at a snail's pace, so shit's crazy. It feels like everybody's getting DP'd by both climate change and COVID, so stay safe out there, talk to people, find help if you need it. God bless you, and have a great rest of the winter.